Hi everyone. This is a small ZeroPass 2-screen collector that my 14-year-old daughter built. She built it for a couple of reasons. One, so that we can use it to carry it around with us and show people how it works and what it is, especially people that are accustomed to thinking that all solar power is electrical. And here we're producing heat from solar power. The other reason that she built it was so that we could do some airflow tests, or any kind of tests that we feel that we want to do on it. And today we're going to do an airflow test. We want to see how much air hits the glazing versus how much air stays between the screens as we pass the air through this thing. And here we have some glazing that we're going to use for that. She's taped a series of ribbons onto the bottom of the glazing. There's some gold ribbons that are long that go down all the way to touch or almost touch the screens, and then there are some short red ones that are about an inch long. What we want to see here when we pass the air through this is we want to see the gold ribbons bouncing around, and we want to see the red ribbons being still. Here we've got the system set up with a cardboard box, which is going to act as a plenum to help the air go through the system, and a leaf blower that is going to be used to blow the air through. And of course that'll give us far more airflow than what we really would normally use, but we want to see how much we can make these ribbons dance around. So we're turning on the leaf blower and take a look at the ribbons. We can see the gold ones are dancing around quite a bit, and at this point we are blowing the air through. Later on we're going to try pulling it through instead. We see the gold ribbons bouncing around a fair amount, not a great deal, but a fair amount, and we don't see any movement on the red ones. I did see a little movement on one or two red ones when I was doing it. It doesn't show up well here in the picture, but it turns out that that was probably due to a leak, because when I pressed down on the glass in that area, they stopped moving around. So it appears to me that when we're blowing the air through, we're getting some air movement that is distant from the glazing, because the gold ribbons are bouncing around, but the red ones for the most part stay very still, and that's good. That's what we want to see. We want the air to go through the screens, move the gold ribbons, and not move the red ones. And here I'm feeling to try and see if I'm getting fairly even airflow out the other side. Not exactly a scientific test there, but it did feel like it was pretty constant all across the collector. At this point I've taped up the hole in the plenum where the leaf blower had gone in, and now I've got a whole different shaped hole in the plenum where I'm going to set the leaf blower on top of it so it pulls the air through the collector in the opposite direction of what it had been doing. Okay, I'm now turning on the leaf blower to pull the air through, and let's see how the airflow changes when the air is being pulled through instead of pushed. And what we see is very little movement in any ribbons at all. Even when we crank it up the whole way, the air is staying between the two screens. And we would like to see a little, and I'm feeling here to see if I'm getting even airflow across the collector, make sure it's going through there like it should, and it does. And I'm checking, do I have any leaks? Why am I not seeing the ribbons move around at all? Well, it's just that the air is staying between those screens. And here I'm going to crank it the whole way up and see if we can find some ribbons moving. And I get very little movement. So the end result of this, for those of you who saw my original posts on the ZeroPass collector when I first introduced it, I had thought, and this was all based on thinking design, not based on experiment, that it would be best to pull the air through rather than push it. But after this experiment, I've got to change my thinking on that. I believe that I'm going to go with pushing the air through instead of pulling it, because it causes more of the air to pass through the screen, and yet it still stays away from the glazing. So I think we'll get a better heat production by pushing it through instead of pulling it.